Hi and welcome back to Portrait Painting Made Easy. This week we're going to be painting Rachel. Hi everyone, I'm Michael, portrait artist from Perth, Western Australia. Portraits, it never gets old painting these things. They're absolutely fantastic. This week I want to do something a little bit different. The hair on that when we went on the photo shoot was a little bit straight, and I wanted to make it a little bit more funky, a little bit more wild, really capture Rachel's personality. So this time I'm actually going to paint the hair first, then cut the background into it, just to show you how I try to get this effect that I'm chasing. Also, I'll show you how to paint the fabric, make it really, really easy. Painting fabric is simple, even when you try not to paint fabric, that's probably the best way. And I'll show you my business journey as well, so it can help you on your journey also. Listen, love to grow this channel, love to have your support. It costs you nothing, mean the world to me. Could you just subscribe, hit that like bell, make some comments. Everything helps the algorithm. That'd be really, really appreciated. Okay, without further ado, roll the intro and let's paint. Welcome to the palette. This time I'm going to start with the lady's hair, with Rachel's hair, rather than the background. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to cut the background in around the hair. I want to make the hair a little bit wild, so I'm going to do it this way and see what happens. The palette is set up with the white, brown, blue, red, yellow, and the black is a 60% blue, 40% brown. Left-hand side colours are the hair colours, 3 across the top is the background, and I've pre-mixed a few flesh colours on there as well for the forehead. So here we go. So I'm going to cut in the hair. Now I'm going to do something deliberate here for you. I'm actually going to cut the hair in incorrectly across that forehead. I'm going to angle it wrong. You can see the right and the left. You can see the picture on the right there, and you can see the left-hand side. I've totally angled it. Something wrong. This can happen sometimes because you are sitting very, very close to this thing, and when you don't step back, or when you do step back, you go, oh my goodness. Don't worry. It is so easy to fix. It's just not funny. It just takes all the stress out of everything. So we're not going to fix it straight away. So I'm going to leave it deliberately and just show you how easy this thing is to fix later on. So here we are. The right-hand edge, I'm just cutting where the earlobe is going to be and roughly mapping out where I want that shadow to appear on her left-hand side cheek there down to her neck. Then I'll just come across to the white. I love jumping around the portrait. I don't like to just sit in one spot. But since I'm doing earlobes, I'll try and match them across the line there. And now I'm going to start with the hair. The interesting thing about hair is I'm not actually trying to paint individual hairs, but I am looking at the movement of the hair. And this is why I've drawn some lines on here for you, so you can actually see what I'm going to be doing. And you can see that I'm actually mapping that hair in using the darkest spots first. So I'm putting all these blacks down first, the darkest areas. Now, you don't need to draw this many lines, but if you're starting out, why the heck not? Don't listen to people, oh, you've done too much drawing, you should draw with a brush and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, don't bother about that. You do it your way. This is where we're just beginning. What we're doing is we're training our eyes to see. And here you see I'm starting to fill in with the different value now. It's a brown color, but it's primarily, I'm just looking at a different value. And I'm trying to make this hair a little bit wild. Obviously, in the photographs that I was using, I took several photographs. The hair was just normal, straight. There's no wind blowing inside, so the hair was just looking quite nice. But she had this look on her face, and I thought, I just want to make the hair a little bit more out there, a little bit more free. This lady is a therapist. She's very much used to listening to people. She's got an interesting way of raising that left eyebrow of hers when she listens, and she is actually listening. So I wanted to capture this, and she dresses very, very comfortably. It's very comfortable clothes. So I thought the hair, if I could do something with it, it will just add something to the portrait. So that's what I was doing. So just to give you an idea there, I am just mapping in the lines. So I mapped them out originally using the pencil, a piece of charcoal actually. Normally you wouldn't bother. as long as you move the brush in the direction you want to see. But you know what I find? That if you can draw it in pencil first, and you get used to drawing in pencil, you're actually training your mind's eye to see. And then as you start to use less and less penciling, your mind will automatically better see the shapes and see what it is you'll want to create on the canvas. You look at a photograph and you'll basically transfer your eyes from the photograph, if it's on your left or your right, depending how you like to work. Mine's always normally on my left. My photographs are scattered around everywhere. But I'll normally lock on a certain area. Then when I cast my eyes back onto the canvas, I can virtually see where it is on the canvas, and then I'll just follow the brush strokes. So that's why I don't want to paint hair. I just want to paint the movement and the flow, and just put some squiggly lines down here, and let's just see what happens. Let's just have a bit of fun with this thing. Now, straight away, I'm now into the background. Again, very abstract strokes, very dabby, very, I don't want any consistency here. I do move around a lot, I'll bounce around. I'll go to one side. Now I've come back to the other side, and you'll see that brush just moving all over the place. And I'm not doing any blending. So I'm definitely not doing any blending. I'm just letting the natural brush strokes as I pop them in here do the blending for me. Now, what I'm going to do, this is a bit like painting twigs. So the reason I did the hair first was to show you how I do twigs. Normally, I'd paint the twig in first and then cut the background around the twig. It means I can make them faint, means I can make them fatter, thinner, put more bends in there, make them disappear at points, reappear at points. And that's all I'm doing with this background. So I've got my shade of my background. Unfortunately, the camera I'm filming with, guys, is not aligned with my photographic camera for colors, and that's to do the light in the studio. That's why I put the actual photograph alongside. But hey, the colors don't matter. What matters is the values. Now you can really see, now I've put the background in that hair, and you can really see how wrong the forehead is. Let's not worry about it. The worst thing you can do is start correcting, go, oh my God, I made a mistake, and jump in and try and correct it there and then. Don't worry about it. Let's just continue. So I need to put the forehead in. And this is where you'll see where you've done wrong, because you'll be going, hold on, there's a dark, value here, and all of a sudden it's misshapen on that side. Don't be tempted to fix straight away. You could if you wanted to. I just want to prove the point that you just don't have to. I've got my mindset now to paint this forehead, and I'm going to paint it exactly as I normally would. I believe that if you want to put a lot of detail into your portraits, put a lot of value shifts in. I say this all the time. Detail is value shifts. The more value shifts you'll get into this painting, the more detailed it will look without you even trying to paint detail. There's no detail in my paintings. You zoom in, you'll go, Michael, the eye's not even round, the pupils aren't round. I'll zoom in on your nose, and it's actually just smudges of paint. And I love it. I love the illusion it creates. So as we go into this forehead now, you'll see I don't use great big brush strokes. I don't try and cover big areas. I just gently twist and turn that brush and dab it and pull it. And what I'm after, apart from just the value shifts, is I always say texture. What I want is, if I create texture, obviously by pushing and pulling the paint on and off the canvas so lumps appear, I create texture because I don't blend the joints, so there's these things, and I create a lot of texture in a lot of different value shifts. What happens when the eyes try to scan over it? They grip. It gives, I call it gripping. I don't know what the technical term would be for it, but when people start looking, their eyes stop and they grips on all these different things, and it holds them. But it makes the eyes work. And believe me, eyes are really good at working. They can look at this. They know it's a forehead. And guess what? They'll smooth out all the bumps, all the wrinkles, and it will look nice. So the more values, the more texture, the more shapes you can get in on this forehead, the better. And this is why photographs sometimes smooth things out too much. They look great in photographs, but you'll look at a photograph, and if you try to copy it verbatim, you may find that your painting lacks. It lacks because paint is meant to be textural. So if you want that, put it in. You'll see I dab, I push and I'll pull, and I'm trying to form little ridges on the paint. And I'm not painting in pastel, by the way, but I do want that on there. Now, the colors I'm using, by the way, you saw the palette, but just for all, I will put the colors underneath. Titanium white is what I'm using. I use my brown is burnt umber, which is really a dark orange. So I just think of my burnt umber as a dark orange sitting there on the palette. My blue, grey, blue is grey, but the blue is ultramarine blue, good old faithful ultramarine there. The yellow that I've got sitting on my palette is Bismuth yellow. I will actually put it underneath so you can actually see the spelling. And I use the red on here. Sometimes I use alizarin crimson, but this one is one of my favourites, and it's Pyrrole Ruben. And it actually comes from Mark Carter's paint company, which is Geneva. And no, they don't sponsor this video. Very welcome to if they want to, but they don't. Send me a free tube of paint. Hey, you got to ask. So they're the paints that I'm using. So now you'll just see I'm just gently working around small marks, not big. I'm not trying to cover great big areas. I'm not painting a wall. I'm painting this lady's forehead. So I know that there is lots and lots of value shifts in a forehead, more than I could ever paint. Honestly, more than I could ever paint. So here I'm just making sure that as I move across, I'm creating those value shifts. Now, sometimes they will look wrong at this stage as well. That is really, really important to know that things will look wrong until you get the next piece in, and all of a sudden it starts to make sense. So don't go back correcting stuff, colors, shapes, what you've done, until you've got the whole canvas covered. And I think this is one of the things that this is just a method, just a teaching method. This is not a method you may use your whole life. We're going to get to some more advanced modeling methods on faces. But if you get used to this, breaking it down that you can see just a forehead and paint a forehead, and I've done it with students, and we've done 4 drawings in a row, and then let's paint 4 foreheads. Let's mix all the colors. And the training, when they go to actually do an actual live study, their eyes automatically look at someone's forehead and go, oh yeah, and they see the shapes, they see the shadows, they see all the value shifts, and magically they're able to paint it, and they go, oh wow, I didn't believe I could paint from life. This is the basics. This is where you get your training. Don't try and train from life. I think some people do, but for me, I think that's a challenge. Here I'm controlled. I've drawn it. I don't have to worry too much about, am I getting all the proportions right, in the right spots? I don't have to worry about anything like that. I can actually just concentrate on putting down values and creating lights and shadows and dips and bumps on this forehead. And I do that with 4 of them. Hey, I'm well away. Here comes the eyebrows. She's got fairly black eyebrows, so I didn't bother lightening these up at all. I'm just going to put them in. This is where you really start to see the forehead. I've still left it. I'm still not correcting it, deliberately not correcting it, so I just want to show you how easy the thing is to correct, so I don't stress about anything. That's the beauty about oil paint. You don't have to worry about anything. So we'll just put these eyebrows in. As I say, she had a habit of, as she listened to you, raising that left eyebrow, and she had a beautiful look on her face that I really wanted to capture. She studies, she listens, highly intelligent, and she's actually listening to what you're saying, not just, hearing, what you're saying. She's actually is quite intent and can actually, and I guess that comes with the territory for the job she does. So anyway, enough about that. We're moving down onto the nose. And this is a distinctive point that when I just put the shadow on the nose, because obviously I'm just smudging paint, it will look wrong to you. Now, I have a rule here. Don't let anyone in your studio, because, they're going to come into your studio and they go, oh, I don't know about that. Oh, look, Michael, that forehead, oh, it's not looking right, mate. Oh, look, that shadow, oh, it looks a bit dark to me. That light on her forehead, oh, it looks a bit bright. I think it should be. And it's like, give it a rest. It's not finished, Come back when it's finished, because they'll try and tell you it's wrong. And it isn't wrong. It can't be wrong until it's finished. And even when it's finished, it's not wrong. It's your interpretation anyway. Yeah, but you would look at that on the side of the nose and maybe think, oh, it looks way, way too dark. Don't chase your tail. You've checked the value, which is more important than the color, but you've checked the value. You've got your color about right. So how I do it, especially with photos, and this is what I do in real life as well. In real life, I put it on a card and hold it up and I squint. And if I'm squinting at the color and it disappears against the color that I've got it in front of, like on the face, I know that my value is just about right. And I can adjust the colors just slightly to get it pretty close. Pretty close is good enough. On a photo, I would just take that and just put a little smudge of it actually on the laminated photo and look at it. And again, just adjust my head for any glare or anything like that sometimes you will get glare onto a laminated sheet, and just squint. And by squinting, if that paint seems to disappear, it will, if it's too dark, it will show up. If it's too light, it'll show up. And you can adjust it and get it just about right. So when you're squinting, it just about disappears. Lovely. And then you just do the color shifts. I'll do some color mixing for you guys if you like, and just show you how easy it is to color mix when you're restricted just to these 5 colors on your palette, what we call an essential palette. As you get going, I'm going to say you're going to probably find colors that you like to add, convenience colors, shortcut colors. You're going to find something that you say, I want to have this on my palette because I always go to, raw amber as for XYZ, whatever, and I'll shortcut there. I know a portrait artist, and as soon as he starts, I will pre-mix my blacks, but he pre-mixes a mauve, wherever you're from in the world. And he has that on his palette because he knows he always puts that into his paintings. He doesn't buy it because he said he can't buy the exact color that he wants, the exact shade, so he just pre-mixes it and leaves it there. Doesn't do any value shifts to it. He just mixes a base, and then he'll value shifts as he grabs it from that pile of paint that he's mixed up. So we're going to go into the eye, and once again, I'm just shifting everything. I'm looking for where I can make a value shift. There are more value shifts in my painting than it's on the photographs. That's why I don't show you the photographs, because they can be distracting. They're a reference only. They're only a reference, okay? So it's important not to see. So what you're seeing on the right-hand side on this screen is the actual finished portrait. And the lady was very, very pleased with this one. Now, building your career as an artist, I think this is really interesting. I do get asked, how did you get going being a portrait artist? Did it take long? How did you get your first clients? How do you sustain your clients? And lots of questions. And I do too. I like portrait painting, and I love still lifes. They're my 2 passions that I really, really enjoy. Portraits have a special place. Portraits just do not get old. When you deliver a portrait to a client, it's kind of, it's a wow moment. That never gets old. Still lifes are that freedom of expression that you can go. And there's my phone. Sorry, guys. I'll just make sure that is turned off. Someone's ringing up for a portrait. Yay! So talking about that, how did I get going? So what I did, I started painting the portraits and just showing people. And then I was selecting people. I selected a friend of mine and painted him, put him on the wall, and then he was showing his friends. I painted my grandson, and of course then my son was showing his friends. And then I had some business colleagues, and I started painting them as gifts, as free gifts. It's like doing a free trial. If you're in business, you quite often you do free trials. So I was doing this thing, gifting these paintings to people, and they were really enjoying them, and they were showing other people, and I'd always leave them a card. I always had my cards done. So I'd give them a card and say, if anyone's interested, please pass my card. And I'd always give them 2 or 3 so they had some options. And amazingly, the phone starts to ring. And I kept my prices quite low to start off with, and I slowly just crept them up. But I reckon I'd still be about half price than anybody else. That's how I got going, because I realized by doing that, I could really, really build a really solid business. Now, while we were just talking, you just saw me just painting the forehead there. I basically got the black. They say it's easier to put light over dark in oil painting, but that just proves you can put dark over light as well. I just mixed my black. I just very gently pushed it on, made sure it's on the brush, went backwards and forwards a few times, and hey presto, the forehead is fixed. And you'll see I'll just go and just put a little bit of detail in there. So not hard at all. Don't get stressed if it's the wrong shape. No, don't worry about it. It's so easy to fix in oils. It's just not an issue at all. And that just shows you. I left it until I got the eyebrows in, and then I used the eyebrows to give me a guide for the top of that hairline and just to get it to where I wanted it. And then when that's done, I can then just pop back to the eyes. I'm just trying to zoom in a little bit for you here. I might have cropped it out a little bit, but all I want you to see is how small a movement I'm putting in. And I think that's the thing with portrait painting. It really does come down to patience. If you've got patience and you can just put little pieces in and really enjoy putting those details in, or those, and when I say details, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about value shifts. You get so much pleasure out of it. It's really, really interesting. And I'm just putting the top line of that eye in there, and it's not black. It's just off black. It might look black on the screen, but it's not black. Sometimes black is just way, way too strong. But I know that if I can get all these shifts in here, and at the top of an eye, just to give you an idea, I will aim for probably about 8 value shifts in the top of someone's eyelid. Because of all the creases and the crevices, and it's tucked under the eyebrow there, so it's a bit darker than it's on top of the eyebrow. Then it's got another little fold line, where the eye is actually, the socket of the eye is in there. Then it's got the actual line around the eye and that top line. And then it'll have a highlight popped in there. It'll have little spots in the corner, maybe a little highlight in the corner. And then on the outer edge, it's got another spot in there. And then I start to paint in the bottom and the eye as well. Now, for me, eyes don't have to be round. No, I know they are round. But when you're looking at the iris, I'm really just going, it roughly has to be here to give me a shape that I want. It doesn't have to be perfectly round. The pupil, the black spot in the center, doesn't have to be perfectly round, and anyone that zooms in on my paintings will see that they're not even round, and the pupil's not round, and it's still, and yet when you step back, your eyes will fix it. I look at some of the brilliant portrait artists that have come through, like Velasquez and Sargent, and you start looking at their work and realize, in some of their paintings, there's not even an eye there. But when you stand back, you see an eye, and you go, oh, yeah, his eyes. And you walk up to the thing, you're like a foot off it, and you're trying to look at it and going, there's no eye here. It's just some smudges of tone. There's a famous painting. I must see if I can find it for you one of these days, of a billiard table with the billiard balls. But when you walk up, they're not even round. There's just smudges of color or smudges of tone, smudges of value. Value is just the light and dark, as we say. But when you step back, your eyes fix it. Your eyes fix it because they grip on it, and if they can grip something, they'll correct it for you without you even realizing what is going on. And so the whole thing is magical. So you can cheat with the eyes as well. We can not worry about being too round. We can push and we can pull. We can make sure the pupils aren't perfectly round. We give the eyes something to do. And I think that's what starts creating the magic in it. You have to step back 3 or 4 feet from these paintings. I've once heard an artist say, if your painting doesn't look good from a foot away, step back another foot. Still not looking very good. Step back 3 feet. No good. Step back to the other side of the room. Step back 10, 15 feet. How does it look now? What he was trying to do was to get you to understand that you can get away with a lot if your values are in the right place. In fact, you can get away with so much. It's absolutely crazy, eh? And I think that's where the fun comes in. That's where the enjoyment comes in. I've looked at a photograph and I just see, the photographs tend to smooth out the colors, don't tend to put in some of the value shifts that I want in. So I just have a look and go, in my imagination, there'll be a bit lighter here, a bit darker there, there's a crease line there. And I'll even put things in that definitely are not in the photograph. So that's why I always say the photograph is the reference. It isn't the Bible. You're not going to follow any photograph verbatim, And I've normally got, I'll take a shot of my photographs one time, but I don't want to distract you with photographs. But I'll normally have 5 or 6 different photographs going on. And depending what part of the face I'm painting, it will depend on what I'm actually looking at. Because photographs, if you take several of them, you get different aspects. You'll see different lights, different shadowing, and then you start picking the best that you want out. And the idea of doing the drawing first is just to give you a map. When you're not trained at looking at this, it really is just to give you the map. So you see what I did there. First of all, I marked in where I wanted an eye to go, and then I come across the top. That's quite a dark color. And I'm just trying to shape this in. Now, one thing you will find, even when you draw, the drawing may not be correct. Okay, what do I mean by that? I mean that you might start looking at an eye and going, oh, that eyelid is too low. Now I've actually followed my pencil lines and I've actually painted this thing in, and don't correct it as you go, by the way. Wait till you finish. Wait till you've got some cheeks in there as well, so you can look back up at the face and go, aha. But just like I did with the hair, it's so easy to push it around. The reason I say this is that when you paint from life, and we're going to do some life studies where we draw a center line, then we draw the top and the bottom, we'll draw 2 lines for top and the bottom of the head, we'll draw a center line for the eyes, we'll go halfway between that eye line and the chin and do another little line, that'll be the bottom of our nose, and halfway between the nose and the chin, we'll do another little line, that'll represent the mouth. And what we'll do is we'll map those in. But because you've done this, because you're used to following, lines and you're starting to train your eye, as you put them in, you don't have to worry about the accuracy. You can put them in good enough. They round about there. But if you follow this as a training pattern and you train your eyes to do this, what will happen is you'll be able to sit back and go, because you won't be worried whether it's accurate or not. That's the biggest thing. Get that out of your mind. You're going to be looking at this and going, it's not accurate. It doesn't matter. I'll fix it. Once I get my cheek lines underneath here and I can come back in, I actually want her top eye line to curve up a little bit more. Terrific. I'll go back in. I'll curve it up a bit more. I'll just fix the eye, fix the whites around the eye, which are never pure white, by the way. They're always mainly white, titanium white, a little bit of burnt umber, and a tiny little bit of ultramarine blue, and then doing the lights and the darks around it, and that will depend on each painting, how light or dark it gets. But you will push them around. The eyebrows, you'll get confident going, I think they're round about there. You'll map them in roughly. Because you have trained this way, you're not worried. You can step back and go, that eyebrow needs to move a little this way. That eyebrow needs to move. And because you're not worried, you can wait. You can wait. You can have the patience to sit back and wait till everything's there, then look back at it and go, I think that eye needs to be slightly large. I think it needs to be slightly small. I think the top of the eye needs to curve up a little bit more. Michael, look at you. Look how you, and I exaggerated the error for you on the hairline just to show, and it wouldn't normally be that bad, but just to show how easy it was. How easy and how quick it was just to fix it. So this is only a training method. So the reason we're penciling in is to train our hand movements that we're deciding where that paint goes. not the paint in the brush. That's not deciding. It's when they say paint loose, it doesn't mean just throw it on there and hope for the best. Painting loose just means put a stroke down, leave it. Put a paint down, leave it. But you're putting the paint exactly where you want the paint to go. I want this here, and if my hand slips or moves or I twist and it goes in the wrong spot, that's okay. I'll just put it right. I'll get it. I'll dab away and move away and go. That's where I want it. Now I can bring my other colors, my other values around it and push and pull and make sure that everything's going where I want it. And then if I sit back and go, oh, that dark isn't far enough that way, that light isn't far enough that way, I get my brush and I'll push it that way. It will go where I want it to go. I want it there, it's going there. The eyes, I like them. The eye line has to come up a little bit. Not a problem. The eye needs to be a bit smaller. Not a problem. I'll just put more white around it and cut it in. Oh, it needs to be a bit bigger. That's no problem. I'll go in and dab it a bit bigger. The eyebrow doesn't drop down far enough on a far enough angle. I'm now looking at that and looking at my reference, whether it's a live reference or a photo reference. Oh, yeah, and I can just do a mark with my brush line in the air, like following the line it's on the photo. I'll do a line, following the line on the page. Move my arm across to where the painting is. Kind of fake draw that line before I touch the canvas, and you're going to start to train your arm to move in the right way. Now, one thing just I will say, you're probably saying, just what all the dirt under there? That was me. I couldn't find my bar that I use, to rest my hand on when I was doing. And you saw me earlier, I was resting my fingers. And of course, I've got a glove on that particular hand. That's the hand that holds my cloth that I wipe my brushes out in. So it had some paint on, so I've actually mucked up the canvas. Doesn't bother me at all because it's still oil paint. I'm just going to come straight over the top of it, so it's not going to bother me at all. Now, as we move, you see I move from one kind of canvas to the other. I put some paint down, moved over here. But look how dark this looks. Now, this is one of them points where you start to look and start to go, oh, I'm not quite sure about that, if you start to second-guess yourself. And you only start to really second-guess yourself if you're trying to look at a face and think you're painting a face. I mean, look at this and look at the painting on the actual finished painting. I haven't changed the colour, by the way. I've just put other colours around it. So I don't change the colour. That is how wrong it can look until you're built. So what we're trying to do here is teach you to look at a shape, get the value right, roughly get the colour right, and go, that's pretty good, not bad. Let me put it in there. Oh, I'm happy. Don't worry about what it looks like on the canvas. You now need to look for another blank bit of canvas to cover around. And because we're doing value shifts, we're going to shift those values across. But right now, I can quite honestly tell you, it looks correct to me, but I do know that if you weren't used to seeing it this way, you may be looking at it and going, I don't know if you've got that right, That's why you don't. That's why you don't let people in your studio. Let me grab a drink of water, guys, while we're chatting away. Oh, that's nice. Nice cold water, nothing better. Always keep plenty of water in my studio. I just find that if I can drink a lot of water, it really does help. So here we go. We're just now going to map in the shadow above the lip line here. We're about halfway through this painting. I know it looks like it's got a long, long way to go. It hasn't really. The jacket underneath, you're going to see how easy that is, and the hand underneath, how easy that is. I remember I'm doing a portrait. I'm not doing a hand specialist, and I've looked at some of Velasquez and some of the others, and and Ruben. And you think you're seeing a hand until you walk up and you realize it's not even a hand. It's just some smudges of values put in there. And your hand and your eyes see a hand because it's gripped on there and going, oh, yeah, there's a hand there. So then when you walk up, you realize that I'm not quite sure about that. It's like, I love it. So here we go. I'm starting to fill in now. I'm moving around. I'm just pushing, and lots of value shifts coming in here. Now, once again, it may not look quite right because the blank canvas is still there playing tricks on your eyes. I'm looking at it now from one to the other, allowing for the compensation, the color shifts in my filming. Apologies, guys. One day I'll do something about the cameras, get better cameras and better lighting when I can afford that and when I can be. I don't even know if it makes any difference. But anyway, because if you didn't see the picture, you wouldn't really know. But it doesn't matter. So now we're going to come across. So now you can see that the actual face. Again, as I'm coming across, I'm trying not to paint too big a marks. This is just, and I guess everyone's going to have their own style. You know, they go, oh, big, bold, broad brushstrokes. Wonderful. I think my brushstrokes are quite bold and precise because I'll just put them in and leave them. I just like lots of little strokes because I want to start to change the value. I'll just flick off here now and go to the ear, give my eyes a break. Because that's another thing that'll happen when you're painting, by the way. If you're just staring at one part of your portrait the whole time, you know, in a still life the whole time, and just trying to paint that, you will start to go paint blind. You heard of it, snow blind, and you actually stop seeing what is actually there, and you'll get a little bit complacent and maybe not do as many value shifts and color shifts as what you should be doing. So I'll just move around, and since I've done one earlobe, I'll come across because my eyes now are looking at the two ears and making sure that they're level. That's all I'm doing it for on that particular side. So I'm cutting in now and going, yep, I like that. I've got something there. I'll just cut this jawline in a little bit. I see where it's not quite where I want it. This is how easy it is to fix stuff. This is how easy it is. Let's grab a drink. Lovely. Okay. So now I've come across to here. You'll see that I'm gently just putting marks in now, and I'm actually thinking about the crease line. You know those crease lines that you get just down the side of your face, you know, when you smile and your little cheeks all put that line. So I'm thinking about that and thinking, you know, what's it actually doing there? What's the shape? What's the value shifts that are going on? So yeah, the mixture for the skin is, I don't have many choices, you can see. So there's no blue in it. So on my palette, I can use my yellow and my red to get a base orange. Of course, I don't want to paint orange. So then I can either ask myself, do I want it more yellow in the skin, which will turn it a bit more browny, beigey color, or a bit more red, so we get more pinky color. And then I'll knock that off. So I'll knock the intensity off or the vibrancy off using burnt umber. And the burnt umber will also allow me to darken it. And if I put less burnt umber in, it'll lighten it. So I've only got a couple of choices on my palette. If I want to make any of these skin tones lighter, I can either use white or yellow. So I'm really looking at where do I want to shift it. If I want to shift it into a more beigey, browny looking, I'll put some yellow in there because the yellow will reduce the red intensity in there. If I want to keep that intensity there, then I'll use a little bit of white. And then because the white will be removing the intensity of red, I might even dab a little bit more red in there. If I want to darken it, the only choices I've got on my palette to darken a color, well, you can use red, but you don't normally use red to darken, is my burnt umber or the orange, my dark orange. So I can use that, or I can use blue, and I can also use my black. But remember, I've mixed blue into my black, and because this is her flesh, I don't want any blue in this particular one. There are blues in certain people's flesh, by the way, that you will see and that you can pick up, and then you would obviously you can then start using your blue. But for this one, so I'm really restricting now. The only way I can darken this is with brown. The only way I can really lighten it is I can use white and I can use yellow. So I think by giving yourself these very tight limitations, it can open up your creativity and really enhance your skill level at mixing so many varieties. That's why I always say when you first start off, and you'll see all the experts do it, pre-mixing a bunch of values. Just get used to forcing it, because then you've got something. You might not want to go to the extent I do, but why heck not? Why not just mix 10 or 15 different value shifts and little bits of color shifting? The lips are going to be the same. So we know we get darker in the center. The top lip is a little bit lighter. I'll start finishing off with a little bit of brighter red. You've all seen how I like to put my marks on lips, by the way. As I get the lips in there, I will then just put a little bit of white or a little bit of yellow or a bit of red on my brush, dab it in the areas I want, so it's actually intense, clean the brush, and then smudge it in. And it gives me that real randomness and real freedom rather than trying to mix a colour and actually put it in there, and it may look a bit forced, a bit contrived, and lips and that aren't that. So I just put a little bit of white, dab it in, a little bit of red, dab, so there's little dabs, and then clean the brush and then smudge them in the direction, normally a downward direction on the lip, so you get that drag mark coming down. But you get a real randomness and a real freedom in the lip formation there that adds a bit of realism to it. And I do that with the underneath side, put a little bit dark brown in there, and I don't really care, it's the wrong value now, because I'm going to smudge it. It's going to mix with the underneath, and it will really give you a randomness and an almost an abstractness that you couldn't get by just trying to mix a color and put it in there. And it makes it so easy to create that effect as well. So in here we just finish off the chin area, and already she's starting to look quite good. Yeah, she's not bad at all. I'm looking at the photograph I took on the right hand side. I think it's a bit reddish. I must have a look at the actual file that I've got, and that's me taking it. For photographs that you want to send to clients, I have a professional photographer, so I'd actually put them. We're just going to do a professional photo shoot on my website, because the photographs on my website at the moment are the ones I took, and I don't get the lighting right. I'm not a photographer. I can take a picture probably like the rest of us, but, I'm not a professional photographer. So I prefer to give them to a photographer, get them done correctly until I get a good camera and some good lighting and set something up that I can go, I can do it myself. But it really doesn't thrill me. So I do what I enjoy. Isn't that an important point? I think if you're just focusing on what you enjoy doing, what you do really well, and the stuff that you don't enjoy is probably not the stuff that you'll really excel at. And if you know a photographer and you've got someone who's a friend like that, and you can go, you know what? They've paid XYZ for this portrait. The cost of photography is fractional of that, and it adds so much. The benefit is marketing material and stuff. So that's why I looked at it. I went, I'll just take a collection of some paintings. I'll go pick them up for some clients that I know that I'm quite friendly with. And I'll just put them and say, look, just re-photograph them for me. And that'll give me like 10 or so. And then as I build my collection from then on, and maybe get them to teach me, look, this is how you set it up. This is how you set your lighting up. Use these settings on your camera. This is how you do your adjustments in Photoshop and blah, blah, blah. And away you go. Me, it's just me. You might go, that's easy. I can do that. Great. Doesn't really do much for me, so I just haven't bothered. I'm not, and I don't. I've only recently started doing this, as you know, so it's never actually been a requirement, because my paintings have actually sold to people who have seen them hanging on somebody's walls. They've actually got the real thing in front of them and going, I love it. Yeah, I love that. Who did that? Will they do one for me? How do I contact? And that's how we go. Then I go talk to them. And I'll spend, an hour or so just chatting, getting to know them, getting to know their personality. And then I'll go back, because now they know me, we're a bit more friendly, it's a bit more relaxed. I'll take the lighting, we'll do a nice video, we'll do a nice photographic shoot. I'll take on the next painting, I'll take on the photographic shoot. I'll show you my lighting setup for the photograph. I'm using a Godox TT600, I think it is, off-camera flash. I'll show you my camera setup. I'll take a little GoPro with me so I can just film that. It'll be unusual because I've never really done this before, but hey, it's all experiment, it's all fun. So we'll do that on the next one. I'll take on a photo shoot and I'll show you me actually photographing the client all over the place, and you'll see, oh my goodness, look how many photos he takes. But it gives you a lot to work on. So there we are. I just brushed the neck in. I just basically put the lights and the darks where they belong. I followed the brush stroke to follow where the throat line is. You kind of know there's a lump in the middle of that throat catching the light. So I went horizontal across there. No blending. I have now just moved down to the hand. Now, I'm not really fussed about the hand, tell you the truth. I want to make an illusion that was a hand there. It was half covered in this shawl that she's put in. One hand is actually underneath, one hand's on top. She actually put her fingers in a very interesting way. I wanted to capture that movement. So yeah, but exactly the same again. So what I'm doing now is I'm getting the darks just sitting under the hand there. Again, they will look way too dark. Probably look way wrong. Don't worry about it. They won't. Let me just grab a drink, guys. And you'll see I'll just move around the hand. So I've done a little bit there. I don't like to stay in one spot for too long, guys, as you know. I think that can ruin the spontaneity and the abstractness that you're trying to get. So even on this finger, I tend not to draw a continual line. I'll tend to put a mark somewhere, go away, and if they need to join, I'll make them join or leave little gaps, then I'll come back to what I want. So the rule of thumb, painting hands is no different than painting anything. It's just an object. They're not really difficult. It's just, let's get the darks in the dark, and then we're going to work. So I pre-mixed the colours. I won't bother you with showing you. You know what I've done. I've just pre-mixed the different, unless you want me to. If you want me to show you the colours, just say, hey, can you put the palette up and let us watch you do the colours? I might do it anyway, just see what you think. Because sometimes we go, oh, I don't know. Yeah, let's do it. On one of the paintings, what I'll do, maybe the next one, I'll pre-mix a bunch of values, and I'll set the camera up, and then I'll show you me with the. I won't show you mixing the damn thing. It'll take us forever. You'll be going, get on with it. But I'll pre-mix the values. You can pause the video, pre-mix the values to match them, and paint along, not a problem. And then what I'll do is actually put the paint on one camera. I've got an overhead. I'll put a camera overhead onto the palette. I'll put a camera onto the board that we've got here. And I'll put the palette along, rather than put a picture alongside, I'll put the palette alongside. And then we'll go from there. Let's have a bit of fun. I'll see if that works. Hey, nothing ventured, nothing gained. My YouTube channel's so new it can't hurt it. There's not many views anyway. So, by the way, on that, if you're really enjoying this, please hit that subscribe. Give me some thumbs up, put some comments. Maybe some other people will watch this channel and watch us having this crazy time. So, basically, now the hand looks wrong again. It just looks weird. The colours just don't go. But all we got to do is concentrate on value shifts again. The shape of the fingers, long as they're about right. I was looking at a painting the other day by one of the old masters. I think it could have even been Sargent. The hand was terribly painted. When you went up to it, the hand was a shocker. But when you stood back, it was brilliant. It really was magical. I love that transformation of getting up close and going, there's nothing here. What were they thinking? And then you step back and the magic happens, and it's like, how did you like people who go, how did they manage to do that? How do they know that illusion is going to be created? The reason they know, and the reason you're going to know, is because I'm basically putting values where they belong. So the dark values, a lighter value next to it, and I'm just basically building values. Got a very rough shape, build some values around that shape, and this hand won't look that good until the rest of the painting happens. Then all of a sudden, the hand starts to look like a real hand and not just some contrived, smudges of paint in 2D. Because it's only 2D, isn't it? It's only flat. We're trying to create the illusion that there's a lift, that there's a movement in here. So this is a little bit more fiddly because fingers are a little bit finer, and I want some finer brush marks in here. And there, we're just falling off. You actually only see 3 fingers. It's quite unusual. Just the way she placed her hand, there's fingers hiding behind fingers basically. You can't see the thumb or the first finger is actually hidden. I think sometimes the temptation is, oh, it looks wrong, let me fix it. Don't do that. Just paint it as it is. If you paint colours in that aren't quite right, it doesn't matter. Don't try and fix it as you go. Get everything happening. So that's basically the hand map. The purpose of this is just to show that you don't have to. So now we've done that little bit with the hand, we can now start cutting in the background. So this is a shawl that's just sitting on her lap. I thought she beautifully draped this, and draped fabric is lovely to paint. It's lovely to paint when you get into it. But first of all, we'll just cut a little bit of fabric around her fingers. I just want to get a little bit of an outline now. It will give me an idea whether I've got the shape of the hand or how I want it, and will let my eyes even start to bite on stuff and go, yep, that is going to work. And I can see straight away as I start to cut it around now, I'm going, yep, that's actually forming now. I like what's happening. I've got a little bit of a finger out there, and it becomes really nicely. Now, I've actually gone a little bit darker underneath the hand. This is sometimes it will happen to you. You actually go too dark to start off with, which is fine, absolutely fine. And it's really just because the background is so light, and because there's nothing there, and rather than paint the background and then paint the hand, because I'm cutting in, what has happened is even my eyes are playing tricks on me. But you're probably better off too dark than too light, because we can lighten it up really easy. A little bit of white just popped in there, smudged in, and that'll give us a nice shadowy with some color under there. And here we go. I'll just casually just draw where I think the sleeve should be into there for that arm. And these are the blacks. So these are the deep dark shadows in this dark green top she was wearing. And what I want to show you is how easy it is to create the illusion of fabric here. Now, I'm not going to try and paint fabric. I'm not going to try and paint the texture of fabric. I'm not going to do anything crazy like that, because that just isn't me at all. All I'm going to do here is just put these black marks onto the lines that I pre-drew, but you don't need to draw them. But if you draw them first, it starts to give you ideas of what you can do to create the illusion of this painting. So basically, we'll just put where the crease lines are, and we'll paint them in black. So I want the darkest dark that I can get in there. That's my 60% ultramarine blue and 40% burnt umber. And you'll see I'll start to get the shapes. The more you do this, the more you actually physically draw these lines in pencil first and then start going over with your paint, the more you will get comfortable with painting fabric, and you'll start finding that fabric is one of the easiest things for you to create great illusion on. It becomes really, really enjoyable, eh? It just becomes you. People wear clothing and you go, oh, look at all the creases, look at all the lines, look at what I can do on this, and it gets quite exciting. And rather than being daunting, and there you go, look at all those lines. It's like a zebra pattern. Oh my goodness! And you're probably going, oh, how is that going to work? But the more you get, the better. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the values up a little bit as I start to cut around these patterns and start to do the filling. So I've got 3 different greens, shades of that green, believe it or not, mixed onto my palette. And I'm going to allow the greens to mix in with the blacks. You see, I'll carefully just follow the lines. I don't care if I go over, under, it doesn't matter. As long as I get up to that line or over that line. And you'll see I will make the brush strokes. Again, I'm still short, even though it's a big piece of fabric, as my brush strokes remain short. And you'll see me now just filling in. But I'll take the brush now into the angle of the fabric. I imagine that's a sleeve and it's falling down this way. So I'm looking at the fabric and going, aha, okay, I'll get the edge, but here is it's coming in. And now you start to see me block the whole fabric in. I'm using a couple of different shades of green. I'm not actually worrying what I'm picking up. The more randomness in what I'm actually picking up, and once my shades of green now, the better. They're fairly close anyway. But it really, the camera lighting isn't very good where you see I'm painting it. And it's a bit difficult when you first start off. I'm sure you can start seeing that, oh yeah, I can see it's got different shades. And the right-hand side shows you the finished result. It's really nice looking at the finished result, because you can go, okay, it looks like you're going to get it totally wrong here. It looks like it's absolutely crazy, and it's not. So here we are. I'm cutting around all that black, and you can see that that's done. That's how easy that is. We'll get some lines. I'm just using the edge of the filbert. By the way, I've used a number 5 filbert for the whole thing on this. I was tempted to go to a 6 or a 7, and I thought I'll just stick with the 5 for now. But 5, 6, 7 doesn't make any difference. And honestly, you're going to find what you like. Some people like using dagger brushes. Some like using rounds. Some people like using flats. I just like my filberts. I just think it gives me a bit of everything on a filbert. Quality of brushes. This is actually a rosemary and coal brush, but I use cheap brushes. I really don't. I've seen people paint masterpieces with house painting brushes, so let's not get too hung up on brush quality either. We've got more important things to worry about. Values is what you should be worrying about, and you'll get used to just painting with whatever. I've seen some superb artists, and they've got the state-of-the-art brushes, and you can go and give them the cheapest rubbish you can and go, here, paint with these. I bought these at the $2 shop, basically. And they'll still produce the same masterpiece because they'll make that brush do what they want it to do. They'll make that paint go where they want. And because they understand values, because they understand that's what it's all about, the value's doing 80% of the work, and the colour and the brush is like, yeah, whatever, I'll just paint. And that's why you see people paint with palette knives. Some fantastic palette knife painters. They don't care. They understand everything. And of course, they get a different look with a palette knife. You'll get a different look with larger brushes and different look with smaller brushes. Play around, have fun. Again, I'm trying to now mimic all the falls in this shawl that she's got. We're just about done, by the way. To get those colours in there and get those folds. It doesn't look correct at the start. But hey, you just work on this and the illusion that is a fabric shawl starts to appear. Again, you see my brush is following the line of the fabric. I think that is really, really important. Just when you're thinking about this, and my brush strokes are now starting to vary. When it came down, I wanted longer brush strokes. But normally I'll use shorter ones. I tend not to do too many long brush strokes just because that's how I am. Sometimes in the hair I will. You'll see I'll just drag that through there. So I get a really nice line of one fold on top of another fold. And we are just about done. There's only a little bit of blank fabric to go. I just have a bit of smoothing on that to do. Finish off this little piece over there. And guys, that is a portrait with some interesting fabrics thrown in as a bit of a challenge. Do a hair is a bit wild there, just for something different. And just, hey, paint the hair first, then paint the background. Just to prove it can be done. It doesn't, I would normally paint the background first, as you know. But hey, nothing wrong with doing it this way. If the hair is a little bit wild and a bit wavy, why not paint it first and then come back in with the background afterwards? Now I'll just put a few dark accents on there where I want them, just to give the illusion that there's a few more folds happening on this nice soft fabric. And if you notice, I didn't try to paint soft fabric. It just looks that way, just the way the lights and darks are happening with it. I didn't try to mimic that there was actually a leg underneath the fabric, but the illusion is she's crossed her legs and it's actually pushing the fabric in the way she's thrown it. One hand is sitting underneath it, one hand is on top. A few dark marks thrown here and there with a few squiggles going around. Smudge that paint in. Let's not get too excited about this. And I think at about 2 minutes left to go on this thing, and you're watching me in real time just finishing this off. Put some darks in there. I want a dark accent in there. And it's amazing what you can do. And you can do this too. You can do this very, very easily. I know you can. It's very exciting. It's lots of fun when you do it like this. And there we go. I'll just put a couple of marks in here. I think I've got a couple more marks that I will put in. If you watch, there'll be the dark accents now. Quite often you'll always hear me say I work dark to light. But when I've done my fabrics, if I think it needs a few more crease lines are darks, I'll just put them in. We will grab another crease line because I can see one straight away. Just where her hand is. Let's just put one in there, and one in there. I'll come from under her finger in a minute just to accent that is a fold. So I'm looking at that finger, and I'm looking at it now like I haven't even painted it. But I'm looking going, oh yeah, where that finger is, Michael, hanging down, there should be a shadow under there because that's where fold is. It doesn't look correct at the moment. So getting right to the end, and here, and I'll do a crease line down there. It makes a little bit more accented turn, puts a bit of life into that fabric. So that's how easy it is. Just drag the dark through that light, and you'll get some life in your fabric. Do like a swirly motion, just very lightly with the brush. Don't have to be too accurate. You're just creating an illusion here. And just to finish it off, let's put some dark under that finger. Go on, Michael, put some dark under that finger. That's what we want. Little mark going under there. And I'm just looking now at where the shapes of the lights and the darks are. And now I'm getting impatient watching it, going, when am I going to put that dark under the finger? It's crazy watching your own video back and narrating to it, because you kind of know where you want to go and going, come on, hurry up, do this. I want you to put that there, and going, why have you done it? And here I go. We'll do a little bit more, and you see where the thought process is, looking at it and going, I need something under here. Yes, I can see where there's no fold. There would be a fold here around this finger, and just underneath the finger would be causing a shadow. So I need to put a fold in, and the only way I can really create a fold, and the easiest way, is put a shadow there. And there you go. There is the finished painting. Well, I did enjoy painting Rachel. Every painting is different. Every portrait is different. They're so interesting. And I think some of the lessons we learn is don't be afraid to experiment. It just doesn't go wrong. Look, we're doing some fairly heavy drawing on these first ones. It's just to lock your mind's eye in so you start to see how a portrait looks. And as we progress, we'll start dropping out the drawings, and you'll be amazed at how quickly you learn just to paint with a brush and map everything in and sculpt and move, because you won't be worried about whether things are perfect to start off with, because you will learn that you can just move them around. Look, it's been absolutely fantastic having your company. I hope you've really enjoyed it. Please subscribe, help the algorithm, cost you nothing, means a world to me and this channel. Hit that subscribe bell, hit the likes, and please comment, ask me questions, tell me what you'd like to see, and let's see if we can grow this channel together and enjoy the journey of a portrait. I'll see you next week.